Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. To close out this season, we're going to look at a final Brave and the Bold story from one of my favorite writers. It's an adventure that sees 4 different teams, one massive threat, as they sail to the future, the past, and in between. I'm taking issue with The Brave and the Bold, Volume 3, numbers 34 and 35, written by J. Michael Straczynski, with art by Jesus Saez and Tom S. Chu. Let's see if these comics make us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. Number 34's cover has the Doom Patrol, Negative Man, Elasti-Woman, and Robot Man, alongside Lightning Lad, Saturn Girl, and Cosmic Boy of the Legion of Superheroes, all standing dynamically around a charged time bubble. We open on Earth in the 31st century, where Saturn Girl is asleep until woken up by a crash outside. This sets off a general alarm, but given those awoogas, perhaps it was triggered by her skimpy sleepwear. She heads outside with Cosmic Boy as they find Lightning Lad near the crash. "I'm okay. You don't look okay. It's a fashion thing." In the future, fiery wreckage will be as en vogue as you can get. He was out on patrol, about to return to base as he neared Saturn. All the jokes and childish giggling prevent anyone from wanting to patrol Uranus. He detected an energy surge with an insanely high output, emanating from a primordial black hole, about half the size of Earth's moon, quite small compared to most others, but still capable of destroying a planet. One of the oldest type of black holes in the universe, and it's headed straight for Earth. It's going to lecture everyone about how much better things were when it was younger. The good news, they have 3 or 4 weeks to come up with a countermeasure before it arrives. The bad news, as indicated by Cosmic Boy's magnetic field senses tingling, the black hole is already here. "In my day, there weren't no gaudy twerking. We had no contact square dancing because we was dignified." As it starts affecting the Earth, it's clear there's no chance of escape from this phenomena, though plenty of time for Kaz and Saturn Girl to get their costumes on, though no time to get any other Legionnaires, I suppose, so all they can do is head for another time. But as they're about to board the time bubble, it disappears. Armful Off-Boy picked the worst time to do his stage magic act. The bubble suddenly reappears across the room, and it's assumed the black hole's cosmic energy is messing with the device. Still hoping that it works, they set it to 24 hours ahead, away from where the Earth would be, as they see it ripped apart on a splash page. "Kids today don't want to work 10 hours a day for pocket change. Lazy and great." The team has visited the future before, and the pale blue dot was still there, so something must have changed the time stream. Barry Allen trying to save his mom again, probably. To put right what once went wrong, they'll need to destroy the primordial vacuum before it reaches the solar system, and find someone who can control the insane amount of energy necessary to dismantle it. I nominate Harper Row. She doesn't have any superpowers, but throwing her into the black hole should give it lethal levels of food poisoning. We go to the Doom Patrol's base, where the Chief is training Robot Man's strength, Elasti-Woman's giant combat skills, and working on a way to keep Negative Man's body from going totally dormant when his negative energy self is out and about. That's when the Legionnaires arrive, as Saturn Girl, keeper of the power archives, determined that the Patroller's combination of abilities would be best suited to help them save future Earth, and to see if the 6 of them can harmonize well enough for a cross-temporal a cappella group. After several minutes of explanation, it seems Larry, the Negative Man, will have to carry much of the mission's burden. But hey, what's the worst that could happen? Your essence could be pulled apart by the primordial black hole, absorbed and so thoroughly eradicated that not a single atom would survive. That was supposed to be a rhetorical question. It's a shame these future people didn't think to bring their teammate, Social Cues Reader Lad. They approached the time bubble, which seems to have moved from the other side of the room. But like Cliff says, that'll happen with transports shaped like a marble. In any case, they've got a job to do, so they hop in and head back to the future. Rita is surprised how casual they are with time travel, but S-Girl says they do it so often, it is casual for them. There are rules to follow, but they've got it down to a science. And that's when the vessel suddenly stops.
"What was that about having it down to a science? Do you mean real science, or PragerU quote-unquote science?"
There's a problem with the tachyon collector, which lets them determine their location in time. And without it, they're stuck. They head down to the 4th-dimensional basement, which is more or less how the TARDIS on Doctor Who is bigger on the inside. Lightning Lad finds a contaminant that, once removed, should let them continue. And it's a ball of pink and white fluff.
"Dang it! Another tribble jammed in the engine. I told you we needed to fumigate this thing."
He and Saturn Girl look at Cosmic Boy since it is his color, though he insists otherwise, even if they would understand. Though we can see pink and white is clearly more prominent with Saturn Girl's costume, but maybe she just wants to deflect suspicion away from herself. They set coordinates to after Garth spotted the hole and left, and Rita asks why they don't show up before then. Perhaps an excuse for JMS to have Imra exposit the paradox that would create. Destroying the hole before Lightning Lad sees it means he doesn't return to Earth to warn the others, meaning they don't travel back in time to stop it, which means they don't stop it, meaning Garth does see it because it's still a threat, and...
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
They'll have to take it out before it makes that jump to Earth, because that's when the timeline likely got fouled up. Or, 2011. Cliff is admiring S-Girl's backside until she points out she can read minds, and he awkwardly averts his gaze in embarrassment. And you should really see a therapist about your visceral hatred of mimes. Just a suggestion. As others are equipped with breather units, except Robot Man because they never explain why, given a quick tutorial on how to pilot the bubble. Their plan is based on the Hawking principle, a theory suggesting that the only way to kill a primordial black hole is to emit more energy than the thing consumes. To this end, they'll draw out its particles, some absorbed or captured, others negatively charged to repel the hole, until it eventually breaks down.
In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics!
It is just a theory, though, and they may end up getting pulled in.
But you know what they say. No guts, no glory. Also, no dying a horrible death in the vacuum of space.
Picky, picky, picky. Lightning Lad and Larry's negative form will provide positive and negative charging energy, respectively, with Cliff's body acting as a grounding force for newly charged particles. Cosmic Boy will use his magnetic powers to control the forces at work, / hopefully keep them from getting gobbled up by the threat, and Saturn Girl will hang onto N-Man's body and relay telepathic instructions as needed, since there'll be too much interference for comms to work. With the plan laid out, the three on charger duty are encased in a magnetic bubble and head out. Garth and Larry do their part, but it doesn't seem to be quite enough yet, and if the Lightning user goes all out, he may end up killing Robot Man, though Cliff tells him that if it's to save the Earth, the kid should do what he has to. With that in mind, and Kaz losing his control of the bubble, LL amps it up, with Cliff's body reacting strangely, as the sensors detect the particles coming from the black hole.
Oh, wow! The colors! The colors! It's the 60s all over again!
My word, it's full of hippies. Meanwhile, in the time ship, Rita says there's some kind of time surge, turning the control panel red, which is actually not great. They disappear from the trippy tie-dyed backdrop, then pop back up in a darker blue gradient, Elasti-Woman having quickly gotten control of the time bubble and moved them to where the black hole had previously shown up in Earth's vicinity, though jumped ahead enough in time and space for their energy drain to have a significantly greater effect than if they had just been blasting it for days. Thus the menacing vacuum is dissipated, and the planet is spared.
Ow, that hurt my brains.
In case that was confusing, unless I'm wrong here, I suppose the idea is that they and the hole all moved through time with their particle charging amplified as they traveled. And so the day is saved thanks to the fast forward button. The Legion drops the Doom Patrol back at home, offering their aid if they're ever in the future, then take off. Rita finds it difficult to describe their experience to the Chief, but he laments having had the worst day of his life while they were gone. The issue ends on them about to take care of Robot Man's damaged chassis, while captions ask what made this day so bad for the Chief, and where'd that pink fluff come from? Find out in DC's latest event, Fuzzy Crisis, a 6-issue miniseries that changes everything forever for 5 months, including tie-ins with every single ongoing title that add absolutely nothing to the main story, but completionists will still feel compelled to get them. Issue 35's cover echoes the previous one, but with very different characters, the Inferior Five and the Legion of Substitute Heroes. They save the future by either playing games on the chalkboard related to the curriculum or letting everyone watch a movie in class. The subs are superpowered individuals who tried out for the Legion but didn't make the cut, so broke out on their own. They're in their cave base, I guess, watching a newscast about the Legion's elimination of the black hole using the Hawking theorem. Chlorophyll Kid figures they could have made it up, since the destruction of Earth was supposedly undone by time travel, but Night Girl doubts it. The Legion are too honest to make up such a story. Stone Boy asks why they never get to save the world, since they'll never be taken seriously as a team unless they do something as big as that. Given inspiration, Firelad suggests they'd commandeer a time bubble and save the world before they can. This could have been DC's scapegoat for the mess that was the New 52, instead of something Dr. Manhattan. Since they still have their access codes from Legion tryouts, and I guess even in the future people are either too dumb or too trusting to change passwords for security reasons, they sneak inside and take the time bubble, going forward 1 hour, then take the 1 hour later time bubble so it technically won't be missing, then use that to go where and when the primordial black hole was first found, near Jupiter. Not a continuity flub, since it was detected when Lightning Lad was near Saturn.
How hard can time travel be? They do it like they were going to the corner store.
What's a corner store?
You know, those shops that only sell corners of all degrees and angles. They're usually set up on mountaintops.
They arrive at their intended time and location, and with the right coordinates locked in, they can just go pick up the Doom Patrol, and the black hole just suddenly vanishes. Okay, I'm coming around on Arm Fall Off Boy's magic act. That's pretty impressive. Night Girl determines that because they forgot to close the quantum gate behind them, the hole was hit by time travel energies, causing it to jump forward in time as they jumped back. Also, the quantum dog got out of the quantum backyard. They quickly find the hole as it's devouring Earth.
I am too smart. I am too smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
Okay, this was definitely not part of the plan, but they can still time tunnel back to the past for help. Easy peasy, continuum squeezy. They arrive in the Doom Patrol's base and ask the Chief about them, but the team had just left a moment prior with the Legion. The substitutes were supposed to show up a half hour before their rivals, but the Chief figures, based on how they obtained a time bubble, that it's off by 1 hour. Firelad wants to recalibrate the vessel and try an earlier arrival again, dismissing Night Girl's warning that they could mess up the time stream, create doppelgangers, because how hard could it be? The instant they leave, the Chief suddenly becomes host to multiple duplicates of the subs.
Hi, can we talk to the Doom Patrol?
In Time Bubble Prime, the crew are now adrift, losing coordination with true time. This is why we need to get rid of daylight savings. To get back on course, they'll need to get the right temporal current that will bring them to the right team to lend them aid. Night Girl does something that makes that happen, I guess, and they land in the lair of the Inferior Five. For those not in the know, they were a more comedic team comprised of offspring of other heroes. There's Merryman, son of Lady Liberty and the Patriot, Captain Swift's son, the Blimp, offspring of Mermaid and Mr. Mite, Awkward Man, White Feather, son of the Bowman, and Dumb Bunny, daughter of Princess Power. Either that or the love child of every dumb blonde joke and Hugh Hefner's sheer force of will. They need the Five's help with a crisis in the future, which Firelad tries 2 hours to explain to Bunny before they all pile into the time bubble to save the Earth yet to be. It's a tight squeeze, but soon they'll be able to use the Hawking Theorem to stop the black hole. Dumb Bunny asks what a Hawking Theorem is, and everyone realizes they have no idea. Among the bickering, and someone getting slapped for allegedly putting their hands where they shouldn't be, Night Girl knows just what to do. Setting self-destruct for 5 seconds. They pop into a class in the middle of a lecture on the improbability of time travel and ask the professor they assume to be Stephen Hawking to explain his theorem. But this is actually Stephen Balking. Well, why aren't you Stephen Hawking? Did the time flow change, or...
It would have cost too much to license his image.
And putting a sandwich board over him that says Handy Capable Science Man was not going to keep the lawyers at bay. I have to imagine there's a subtle joke here, since this guy looks a lot like Colonel Sanders of Kentucky Fried Chicken fame, and chickens go balk. But anyway, after 6 more hours, Balking concludes with what we found out in Part 1, the very simple method to decay the black hole, which Dumb Bunny attempts to simplify. It's like putting that black hole on a diet. You eat less and exercise more. You use up more energy than you take in.
Absolutely correct.
It is?
That's right, he can be taught.
You have to be pretty smart to act as dumb as I do, you know. Now let's get that black hole a gym membership and feed it nothing but lettuce and low-calorie rice cakes. They pile into the time bubble and head out, Night Girl setting their final course, while the others mingle in the sub-basement. Awkward Man brings out some water. I guess all water turns into sunny delight in 1,000 years, but slips, knocking Bunny into the tachyon collector hatch, which begins sparking. Frost Boy manages to get her out, and despite how scary she said it was, so hot and vibrating, she tries to go back in. Night Girl orders everyone topside and really doesn't want to hear about how Bunny lost her tail. They're stalled out, stuck in a temporal void, and unable to go further in time than 2193. Too late for the machine revolution, too early for the koala bear uprising. Those adorable psychos have just been biding their time. Merryman suggests going backward, and Night Girl reads them loud and clear. They pop into the Doom Patrol's base while they are chatting with the Legion, and swap the faulty bubble for the functional one, figuring the Legion will be fine despite the mechanical failure. You know, the one caused by that pink and white fluff.
We're through the looking glass here, people.
They'll be aiming at the hole's location before the substitutes accidentally hastened its path to Earth, with Stone Boy casually admitting they caused the planet's annihilation, and the five give each other some very well-deserved looks of concern. Turns out the Legion is already there on the other side of the hole, and not wanting them to win again, Fire Lad creates a temporal wave to send their rivals back to Earth so they can save the planet. But this just brings the threat closer to it. Again.
Son, you are dumber than a bowl of mice.
Nevertheless, Lightning Lad, Negative Man, and the rest still put the primordial black hole out of commission, and there was much rejoicing from the inferior five. The Legion of Substitute Heroes, not so much, and Night Girl shoots down any aspirations of trying this again. It's too stressful living on the edge of tomorrow. Live, Earth dies, repeat. Merryman offers an alternative idea. The teams join forces, with the 20th century misfits continuing their heroics on future Earth, since they all worked so well together. The subs love this idea so much, they drop the five back in their own era, telling them that this whole caper never happened before they head back to the 31st century. I guess we assume they put the time bubble back where and when it belongs. But a newspaper reveals that the five, who were taken from 1972, are now in 2010. We're almost 30 years in the future! No, you're 38 years in the future, which is almost 40. I guess the subs aren't the only ones getting their time wrong. Either Mary is a doofus and he's not mathing correctly, or Straczynski made an error the editors didn't catch. Either way, they're stuck in a new millennium, with no way back, as long as we forget modern-day characters who can time travel, and Bunny wonders what they'll do. Who will give them a home? As they all break the fourth wall, giving the readers sad puppy dog eyes. The comic ends as the group begin to wander to parts unknown, Bunny really missing her tail, and Merryman suggesting they call Dan DiDio.
Moron!
That was Brave and the Bold, numbers 34 and 35, Out of Time. And it's a lot of fun. For comics, continuity can be a bit tricky to work with as it is, and to mess with the space-time continuum on top of that risks being even more needlessly convoluted. Yet this two-parter is among the most solid time travel stories I know, with a lot of oddities cleverly explained, and all the details working together without any apparent plot holes or serious mistakes that I could see. Some things can get a little confusing at first, but the more you think about them, the more they make sense. When the subs initially swapped the bubbles, and that causing them to be too late in enlisting the Doom Patrol. The cause of that malfunction that stopped the Legion in the void, and so on. In fact, JMS seems to clue us in on this technique when Night Girl brings up parallelism, where two or more elements in a sentence are given the same grammatical structure to draw comparisons or elaborate on an idea. Both the Legion and the subs learn about an existential threat in different ways, take similar steps to address it, but their respective journeys are by no means the same. One path was a serious adventure with a bit of levity, the other was a slapstick response to a world-ending event. One team recruits famously effective misfits, the other settles on obscure bumblers. One sought to save the Earth because it was the right thing to do, the other did it for clout, and only ended up making things worse.
I'm helping! I'm helping! I'm helping you!
In fairness, it is implied that Fire Lad's temporal wave may have helped influence the degradation of the black hole, so they did kind of help, but purely by accident. One had a plan which utilized most of the team's powers and abilities, and the other ran around the time stream like chickens with their heads cut off, with barely a clue or means on how to accomplish their goal, and none of them really seemed to use their powers. Sure, the blimp floated around a bit, Stone Boy petrified himself, and Merryman made some meta jokes with his fourth wall awareness. Yeah, that's his superpower. But the rest in Part 2 didn't really seem to use their super skills. You wouldn't know that Dumb Bunny or Awkward Man have super strength, or that Awkward Man can breathe underwater, or see any of the wannabe Legionnaires contribute their talents. I wasn't familiar with the Inferior Five when I first read this, and I'm still not, but that didn't really detract from my enjoyment. The short version of what I looked up is, much like I mentioned earlier, their title was a comedy, and they were all kind of pushed into being superheroes by their super parents. Their fights were mostly won out of luck, since their personality quirks tend to trip them up. Awkward Man's clumsiness, Whitefeather being overly timid, which isn't really shown in the book, just implied on 35's cover, and Dumb Bunny being the pretty but not so bright woman stereotype that some would understandably consider out of date. There is some of that here, but she did seem to understand the professor's explanation of the Hawking theorem when it seemed no one else was getting it. Was Dumb Bunny just confident that she understood something the rest hadn't, despite her canonically below-average intelligence, or was JMS retconning that she's actually a lot smarter than she appears and only pretends otherwise to throw people off? The world may never know. Perhaps that ending was meant as a chance for characters from the 60s to make a fresh start in the 2010s, but that wouldn't really happen. There was a 2019 maxi-series called Inferior 5, but that seemed to have involved different characters. The art here remains as good as in previous issues of the run, with some arguably corny designs done very well in more modern techniques. Weird how Awkward Man's suit looks very different on this cover. An interesting touch to have shadows in the time bubble behind them, like maybe it's the Legion, or perhaps their Paradox selves, and on issue 34's cover, in the background you see other shadows which could be the substitutes in the Five. There's great humor, including some of the meta variety, which I think holds up nicely, and the two pairs of teams play off each other very well. About the only oddity I could find was why Saturn Girl and Negative Man had to be out in space. Wouldn't it have made more sense if they stayed inside the time ship, not only for the good of Larry's physical body, but also in case Rita needed more immediate help with the controls? On the other hand, N-Man does need his negative self back after a minute, lest he slip into a potentially fatal coma, so I guess this proximity works as a time saver. Overall, this was a really enjoyable close to Straczynski's run on The Brave and the Bold, and hopefully it was just as enjoyable a close to this season of Taking Issue. Look forward to some compilations in the coming weeks. Take care of yourselves, and if you can, others, and hopefully we'll be back next year. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.